Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another developer Q&A video for Eve Echoes. Now, for those of you who don't know, each week the developers of Eve Echoes, NetEase, take 4 questions that have been posed by the community and respond to them, posting that response to the official Eve Echoes Twitter and Facebook pages. Now, I'm well aware that not everyone has access to social media or wants access to social media, and even those who do may not want to link their particular social media with the page of a video game that they play. So each week I go through those questions and responses and I add my own personal thoughts and opinions onto them too. Now, I do apologise, this week again I am still out at Masuna Fishing Camp, which means I'm sitting in a room that's not my usual studio, therefore sound can be a bit off. I've got 2 cats sitting in the room with me that like to play fight and meow whenever they get a chance to, so if you hear that, please be aware they're both very happy and loved sitting here right now. They're just being little nuisances. Beyond that as well, obviously everything in this video, other than the text that is on screen, is my own personal opinion, and whilst I have my opinions, I'm certain that you have yours, and they may not align. You may have opinions that are different from mine. Who knew? 2021, it's the internet, we still need to say this. I have my opinions, you have yours. I would love to hear yours down in the comment section down below. Do let me know what you think. Otherwise, let's just jump straight into the weekly developer Q&A for the week of the 20th to the 26th of October 2021, and happy Halloween, by the way. First then, hello, is it possible to add a new set of skills that we buy with ISK, but it will grow in level based on player activity? It will be a good activity engagement for players to have some skills to grow, even if it takes a lot of playtime to get it. Thanks. Now, if you're asking a question, or if you are NetEase and taking a question, would it kill you to proofread it? Like, seriously, NetEase, proofread. Anyway, thank you for the suggestion, says Cloud. Your proposal is similar to the ship proficiency that we have discussed internally. They're both systems gaining points based on invested time. Although this gameplay has not been included in our current development plan, there are still opportunities for these gameplays to meet with players in the future. Now, the question as I understand it here is basically, can we buy a new set of skills with ISK that just grow over time? Now, theoretically, that's every skill in the game. You pay ISK to unlock it, and then it just completes over time. If you buy Small Cannon Operation and then start to train it, it is just time before it goes ahead. So I'm not entirely certain what the person asking this question is actually asking for. If you're asking for skills that you can just pump ISK into, basically you're asking for skill injectors, which are a thing in EVE Online. Basically, players can use skill extractors to take skill points out of their character, and then they can sell those extractors on the market as injectors that other players can then put into their character. And this does come with a net loss overall, which means that ultimately anytime someone does this, the game as a whole is theoretically losing skill points, which is a way to counterbalance it. It also requires a certain amount of investment in the character before you can start extracting, to stop you just kind of, creating a new character, leaving it for a week and then just injecting it into a character and doubling your skill points that way. It's a bit of a complex system. It's a controversial system as well, which I'm not entirely convinced I want added to Eve Echoes. I think even with the tier system, we've got enough catch-up events and various different ways to boost your progression that I don't feel like we need any more. I'm also completely against the notion of adding skills just because. And recently I've had a sort of influx of people saying to me, hang on Benzie, maybe they're adding capitals because that, the amount of people who are dropping Duo Omega down to Basic Omega because they've trained all the skills they want. I challenge you to, none of my characters have all the skills they want. None of them. There is always something else I can have, and my main characters will be Duo Omega pretty much until I achieve those goals. Even with Benzie, yeah, sure, I'm almost finished on the sort of the basics of my battleship skills. I say basics, you know what I mean. I'm talking about getting up to 14 out of 15 levels there. Even once I've hit that 14, I still need to go back and do the 15th, and I would rather do Expert 5 with Duo Omega than I would with Basic. And I know I may be alone in that, but I just don't think that adding capitals or adding skills just for the sake of keeping people around on Duo Omega is worth it. Ultimately, Eve Echoes is designed that you need Omega to play, whether it's basic, whether it's standard, or whether it's duo. Ultimately, there's no need to have standard or duo. Basic unlocks everything, just those then give you the faster training, which it may not be worth it to you, and that's fine. NetEase are expecting people to play on just the basic, otherwise they would have more locked around standard. And as long as you're still on the basic, I don't think NetEase worries that much. But adding skills, just for the sake of having something to train, no thank you. Adding skills that apply a meaningful decision to the game, yes please, which is why, once again, I would like to postulate that we add the, we change the E-War. I do think that we should rename the current electronic warfare skill to propulsion jamming or something similar, because it's mainly stasis webifiers, warp disruptors, and warp scramblers that are affected by it. Then we take the electronic warfare stuff, the capacitor warfare stuff, the Nosferatu and neutralizer, and put those into a capacitor warfare skill. To me, that's a meaningful choice, because now you've got two skills that you need to train, that you can decide, well, actually, I don't really need all the web stuff, I just want the energy Nosferatu bonuses. Or you can sit there and go, well, actually, I don't need all the Nos bonuses, I'd rather just have the webs. That is a meaningful decision. Just adding skills for the sake of it, I don't ever agree with just adding things to a game because reasons. Second question, are you planning on increasing the rate that anomalies spawn at? Right now, with a few ships, you can clear even a Tech 10 system of base spawned anomalies really easily, even with a level 3 pirate array. Now, not really. Like, crying out loud, it's not a few ships. That requires quite a few ships. And you will still have system spawned anomalies. And I know what you're saying, well, system spawned anomalies, when you kill those, they don't have a chance of spawning Inquisitor or Scouts. And they're still content, aren't they? They're still something to do, they still generate ISK and drop loot. Oh, it may not be worth your time. That's a different issue then, isn't it? Now, the answer from Lance., I'll go over that first, then I'll give my opinions. Lance. Says, thank you for your suggestion. The anomaly spawning rate is related to the number of Stargates in the system. We've talked about this in my ratting video. When the number is greater than 3, the more Stargates there are, the faster the spawning rate is. When players are in a system with 3 Stargates and fewer, anomalies spawn at a relatively slower rate, which means obviously a lot of nullsec systems are at the slower rate. Now, this is an internal balancing mechanism. If it was literally, oh, you clear an anomaly and another one spawns, then basically the biggest alliance is just going to shoot the hell up, because you put a fleet of 100 people in there and you just go ham, and you literally wipe every anomaly, and the second it disappears, another one reappears, and then they just wipe that one. And more players suddenly doesn't make it worse for, there's no balancing. Basically, you can keep adding players to the system, and it just makes that system better and better and better for ISK generation, which means you only need one Citadel, and it means you only need one Bounty Management Center in order to completely just rinse that system of ISK. So what that does is it means you get one system, one bounty center, one fleet, and bam, you just rinse through it and you earn a whole ton of ISK. And the more ships you have, the more ISK you are earning overall. Add in the corporation tax management center, and suddenly there's a lot more coming in. And that kind of breaks things. The concept is that ultimately there is a hard point. There is a point where if you are going fast enough, if there are enough people in the system, that you do clear all the anomalies before they spawn again, at which point you might think to consider splitting your fleet into multiple systems, so that by the time they're finishing the last anomalies, new ones have spawned in their place, and it allows you to continue. Yes, this requires you to have a second Citadel and a second Bounty Management Center. That's the point. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Moving on to question 3. God, I get so dismissive of these sometimes. I don't mean to be. I think, ultimately, I just want to spend a brief second here. Look, a lot of this I play up as sort of like this, just for, people respond to it, and there's a certain part of me that just finds it humorous to sort of be a little bit dismissive like this. I don't mean to be completely off the side. I get where people are coming from. You want to be able to just keep doing content, but there is a way to keep doing that content that is not being considered when that question is being asked, and essentially you're asking to change the system in such a way that ISK generation across the board will increase. It's not going to increase just for you, it will increase for everyone, and when ISK increases for everyone, that causes inflation, and that is bad for new players, because you can sit there and say, well, a tier 10 player can earn this much ISK per day. Yes, a tier 5 player cannot, and when all of the loot in the game is priced at rates that Tech 10 players can afford, the Tech 5 ones can't afford it, at which point they join the game, go, well, this is really dull, I can't afford anything, and then they quit. And then when the Tech 10 players eventually get bored, there's no one to replace them, and the game dies. Anyway, moving on to question 3 then. I understand the need for an insurance cooldown timer for compensated ships, as it makes the game more balanced. However, will NetEase Echo's team please consider making that timer less for pilots who do not aggress when they're getting blapped? Yeah, this sounds like someone got caught in a gate camp, just threw their hands in the air, got destroyed, went to return the ship, and then suddenly, 12-hour timer. Been there, I agree, it's not fun. Let's see what Lance Dot says. Thanks for the feedback. In fact, we also don't want to interrupt players' gaming experience. Yeah, why would developers? Think about that for a moment. It's not that they want you to stop playing. No developer wants you to stop playing their game. But once the insured ship is allowed to leave the station earlier, we can no longer restrict its use, which means it might be used for the next PvP action immediately. This is also horrible for players who are forced into PvP. Therefore, we will not modify this setting in the near future. Basically what they're saying there is, yeah, you can sit there and if you are part of a fleet action and you just go, oh, well, okay, I'm not going to fire a shot, you get destroyed, you can dock up at the nearest station, jump back out, and go straight away again. Now, I think that's a little bit disingenuous. I'm going to actually sort of do a half and half side with both sides here. I agree that there does, in any situation, need to be a situation where, you get that timer. You get that timer if you are lost to PvP. However, I think that if a ship is lost to PvP through something like a gate camp, yes, okay, you are hit with a warp scrambler, that means it's a PvP kill, which means you get the 12-hour cooldown. Yeah, if you jumped through a gate in something like a hauler, and you just want to bring that hauler back and get on with your day, because someone had a warp scrambler on you, you've got to wait 12 hours? No. I do genuinely agree that if you have not fired a shot, if the game clearly tracks how much damage you are putting out to other people, it's how they know where you go onto other people's kill mails. So the game's tracking that information. So if the ship is destroyed, and it's a PvP loss, but there's no instance of you having activated any of your aggressor modules, then yeah, there should be a reduced, if not zero, timer. I'm not going to say 0. I don't think it necessarily should be 0, but an hour? Maybe? Because look, you can sit there and say, oh, well, why don't they just half it down to 6 hours? Because that's still crazy. That's still going to stop you playing the game completely. And you could argue that, yeah, so does an hour. Maybe it should be 0. Maybe it should. I'm just suggesting an hour because, you know, that's enough time to get back to whatever station you're at and kind of look at your losses and talk to people and, you know, consider what you could, you could fly another ship briefly for that time period. That, it's not too bad. I don't agree that someone who loses a ship without firing a shot should be locked out for 12 hours in case they go into a PvP situation. If they haven't fired a shot, then they're not a PvPer, and the game should be able to tell the difference between someone who lost a ship to another player and someone who lost a ship in a PvP engagement. The clean word there is engagement. In one of those situations, if I'm at a gate camp and I decide to lock onto someone and try and take him out, then yeah, if I lose that ship, 12-hour timer, 12-hour timer, 12-hour timer. If they lose their ship and they were part of the aggressing team, yeah, 12-hour timer. If it's just I appeared in the gate camp, I couldn't get out in time, I get the additional punishment of 12 hours? No. Reduce or remove the timer for anyone who is just killed in a PvP action whilst not themselves engaged in that action. Finally then, question 4. Can the faction Wargames rank medals become an item that is worn by pilots once they've achieved that rank? I would love to show off the Admiral medal in New Eden, much like other pilot medals. Melos and Tailless Fox both say in unison, incredibly. That's pretty, impressive. Well, they've got those doors, one of them speaks, and anyway, thank you for your proposal. This is a good idea. Relevant functions will be added to the development plan in the future. Yes, please, more medals. Having a reason to put a medal on your profile is pretty awesome, and something like Admiral is clearly where this should be. You've gone all the way up to the top of faction Wargames. You don't get anything additional in the loot pool for hitting the Admiral tier. Yeah, absolutely give that out as a medal that people can equip. And heck, if they lose that rank, keep the medal. Congratulations, you achieved Admiral rank. That is something really cool. I do think we should have more medals in EVE Echoes given out for various different reasons. I'm wholeheartedly behind that. I've got a really cool, unique content creator one. I think only 3 or 5 of us have one of those. So if you see a Captain Benzie flying through space, see if it's got the unique medal. If it does, that's me. If it doesn't have the unique medal, it's one of my many imposters. Anyway, I just think more medals added to the game 100% is a really cool way of doing it. I would like to see the developers acknowledging some of the wars and some of the bigger battles. If the developers get that whole thing of, oh yeah, well, we actually need to slow the server, we need to, pump up the server for a particular battle, then yeah, maybe they should also give people who fought in that some medals, or at least something towards a medal, and eventually, I just think we should have more medals is what I'm really trying to say here. Definitely. More medals is always a good thing. It's sort of the character customization that otherwise we don't have in Echoes. So, yeah. More medals added to the game, I think, would be a good thing. I think the insurance cooldown timer should be removed, or at least heavily dropped, for people who aren't actually firing in PvP, and yes, that should include logistics. When I say it should include logistics, I mean logistics who are locked on and actually engaged in the activity, then destroyed. Yeah, that should be, that should be a timer. It's part of the PvP action. But if your ship was not locked onto anything when you were destroyed, don't give me the timer. Anyway, the new set of skills, don't add skills just for the sake of adding skills for something to train. There is plenty to get on with in the game. Try a new ship class, try a new weapon system, do something. You have not maxed out all the skills at all yet. Trust me, you haven't. I know you haven't, so get out there and try that. Are you planning on increasing the rate of Anomaly spawn? It's at a rate that basically caps the amount of ISK that any one corporation can earn in 1 hour or whatever, in a period of time. I don't think changing that is necessary. I think the system's already in place for it. Anyway, folks, those are my thoughts and opinions on this week's developer Q&A. Again, I'm sure you have your own thoughts and opinions. I would love to hear them politely worded at me in the comment section down below. Let's chat about these things. Come join the Catskull Discord. Let's chat about it there too. We have a whale of a time just talking about all things EVE Echoes and Infinite Lagrange and other games on there as well. Just come, have a chat. Let me know your feelings about EVE Echoes. Let me know what kind of content you want to see in future. I do apologise for any sound and audio issues that we've had during this video. We do come back from Asuna in the next couple of days, and then I'll be back on the content train Monday to Friday, 1700 UTC, every day a video, 5 a week. I know I've missed quite a few recently. Thank you for bearing with me. Anyway, as an added aside, for those of you who have reached this part in the video, I did go to Victoria Falls yesterday on a wonderful day trip. I took sort of like a whole load of video logging. That video will be out this weekend, hopefully, as well. I know some of you folks really like seeing life in Zimbabwe. I do want to do a bit more of that. So anyway, thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. That one's for you. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.